say is this: when it comes to the foot developing heavy calluses, that's untrue. The foot actually does not.
And we collaborate with a team in Germany that was able to measure the sensory perception of the foot at different frequencies and different amplitudes.
It was exciting for me, first of all, to demonstrate that yes, indeed, people who don't wear shoes tend to develop thick calluses, which has not been previously shown. On the other hand, these calluses also provide protection. It makes the skin harder.
Hey everybody, in this video I've broken down some of the key highlights from my debate with Grown and Healthy on forefoot versus heel strike walking, and added some additional clips with some evidence that I wasn't able to present during the original debate. Make sure to click the like button and leave a comment.
What we don't have, and truly don't have, is evidence of people being witnessed walking in the wild without any sort of interaction with who is actually witnessing them, who's observing them. So because of that, there's a lot of mimicking happens. And because of that, we're not really getting a chance to see people on their own without the influence of the observer and seeing how they would normally move. It is, as a person who comes from an environment that is very rough on the ground and has, different items that you could damage your foot on, it would be very hard. It'd be very hard to land on hard gravel with your heel or a small pebbles. It's not going to happen.
And as to walking on pebbles, studies show that people develop thick calluses very quickly when they're walking barefoot outside. And those calluses are very sufficient to have handled any sort of pebbles, thorns, twigs, things people would have walked on back before modern concrete was invented. So people who are our ancestors would have very easily been able to navigate jungles, forests, grasslands, landing on pebbles and stuff like that with a calloused heel, a calloused forefoot, and the heel pad that's already underneath there. Stepping on pebbles and stuff like that, or even thorns, would not have been an issue.
So Mark, do you think that the trade-off of having a more efficient gait, do you think that having a more efficient gait is a good trade-off for having a more a gait that causes less damage? Because it seems like a forefoot walk causes less damage in your mind, but Dr. Martin is saying that it's more efficient to use a slight heel strike. So what would you say? Do you think that's a good trade-off?
Okay, well, Dr. Martin said it was the faster way. So it can't be both. It can't be efficient and the fastest way if it's preserving energy. The idea first that the fossils are evidence of the gait pattern, I don't think is sufficient. I think it just shows placement of the foot on the ground. It doesn't show how the foot was placed on the ground. We don't know in what condition or what activity people were when we're talking about these fossils. So I try not to go into that.
Apparently, G1 and G2 walked side by side and G3 followed along behind, stepping on some but not all of the 31 footprints of G2. The early humans that left these prints were bipedal and had big toes in line with the rest of their foot. This means that these early human feet were more human-like than ape-like, as apes have highly divergent big toes that help them climb and grasp materials like a thumb does. The footprints also show that the gait of these early humans was heel strike, which means that the heel of the foot hit first, followed by toe off, where the toes push off at the end of the stride, the same way modern humans walk.
What I will say is this: when it comes to the foot developing heavy calluses, that's untrue. The foot actually does not. Calluses are evidence of friction. And improperly, when you're holding a barbell, when you're doing anything in an improper manner for too long, or let me not say improper, but not in the best manner, you will develop calluses because it's a frictional issue. If that were the case, people would have these calluses already on their heels.
We traveled to Western Kenya and did research in 2 areas with the same ethnic population, the Kalenjin. We were interested in the effects of shoes, and so we went to a rural population where most people don't have shoes that they can wear every day. And we compared them to an urban population in the nearby city of Eldoret.
We brought an ultrasound up to the field, measured how thick people's calluses were. We brought up a force plate, which is a kind of a very fancy device to measure how much and how people walk. And we collaborate with a team in Germany that was able to measure the sensory perception of the foot at different frequencies and different amplitudes.
It was exciting for me, first of all, to demonstrate that yes, indeed, people who don't wear shoes tend to develop thick calluses, which has not been previously shown. On the other hand, these calluses also provide protection. It makes the skin harder. And then in addition to that, these calluses do not appear to dampen the tactile sensitivity of our feet.
Also, when you're walking on the forefoot, it seems to be easy to transition into a run. So, Dr.
Yes.
Martin, do you think what do you think about that?
When we talk about people having to hunt and walk across the plains of Africa when humanity first was arrived on this planet or evolved on this planet, you had to walk very efficiently, burning very few calories in order to hunt your food and survive. And the studies all show that walking heel first is far more energetically efficient than walking forefoot first. A study from the University of Utah showed that walking forefoot first or midfoot first on the ball, or on the landing on the ball, is 53% more energy required than landing on the heel. And so if primitive man was trying to hunt food walking on their forefoot and then retrograding back onto their heel, that's a very inefficient way to move if you're trying to expend less calories and move quicker. You can move much faster walking on your heel and using the kinetic energy that you're rolling forward with onto the forefoot as you continue to cycle through each step. It is far more efficient than walking either midfoot or forefoot. And so for our ancestors, where that was critical for survival, it would have made no sense to walk on the plains walking on the forefoot.
What if heel striking was doing or was effective or more efficient? People would find a way to walk as fast as they could with that heel strike. And what we have from that is the sport of speed walking. And we see that they have a high non-contact injury within the hips because you can only walk so fast with trying to land the heel first. Again, a mindful heel strike in the matter that a Tai Chi practitioner would perform, I don't believe is conducive to the lifestyle of even our sedentary lifestyle, much less earlier times.
Yeah, let me just jump in for a couple of points. So first on the Tai Chi walking is not the same as normal walking. Tai Chi walking does place on the heel, but when you walk in Tai Chi, all of your body weight is placed over your standing leg, and then you reach out and place on the heel, and then you transfer. It's not meant for traveling. It's meant for fighting. So that's that's not how people walk normally. But when we walk normally, we're walking for efficiency. You said that you can't walk fast and that be efficient at the same time. Speed, the efficiency is measured by how much energy you're burning to travel a certain amount of distance. And what they find with studies is that you burn less or need less energy walking a certain distance on the heel than you do if you're going to be placing on the midfoot or the forefoot. It's less efficient to place on the midfoot or forefoot, which is why it takes more energy to place on the midfoot or forefoot. That wouldn't be good for people who were trying to hunt for a living. And then we also know humans are great runners, also long distance runners. So when we're trying to move quickly, we would transfer immediately from the heel strike walking, which can get you to a certain pace. It doesn't get you to a running pace. So for Olympic speed walkers, race walkers, they're using a very different walking style to try to get a running pace from walking. Part of the rules of speed walking or race walking is you have to have both feet on the ground at one point in time, which defines the difference between walking and running. But if somebody's walking and trying to run to hunt for efficiency, they're going to eventually go from a quick walking pace to a running pace. And with running, it is quite natural for people who are very good, efficient runners to land on midfoot or forefoot. That's a very different technique than walking.
You can respond, Mark.
Okay, in regards to the switch or the pattern switch from heel striking to forefoot running, up until I think it was late 90s or early 2000s, we were told that we weren't supposed to do forefoot run either. And so that was a huge deliberation between forefoot and the supposed midfoot walking, which doesn't really exist. You can say that you're landing your foot as flat as possible or trying to land with the heel and the metatarsal pads at the same time. But in truth, not many people are able to actually do that. And these same people who say that they're landing on the midfoot also are wearing conventional shoes that are not zero drop, nor have a thin sole. So that is a more of a subjective account of what they're doing. In terms of now that people are coming to accept forefoot running, suddenly, I think you're going to have the same issue right now with people understanding that you lean forward to walk at a high pace and that you'll land on your forefoot.
Have people really been told not to forefoot run until the 1990s? Here's a clip of Jesse Owens sprinting to a gold medal finish at the 1936 Olympics in Germany, and he is clearly forefoot striking. Behind him, each one of the runners that you can see in the screen are also forefoot striking. This is not unusual for practiced runners. Oh, and just to go back to the, I think, Mark, you made a point about running and the controversy, and there's still controversy about whether you develop pain from either heel striking or midfoot or forefoot striking, which is the better for injury prevention. I think the research out there on that is still questionable. It's not showing a direct connection between one or the other. People who are running, regardless of how they run, end up getting injuries. But that, I think, is not the fundamental issue. So people who, if you watch competitive runners, there's running, I think the speed is more indicative of how people are going to land. People who run very slowly are generally going to land on their heel. People who are much more competitive runners and are running more long distance and using more muscular force are going to be landing on their forefeet. And people like Usain Bolt who are sprinting, because it's a very different mechanical cycle of rapid circulation of the legs, rapid cycling. When you're sprinting, you're going to be landing on your forefoot. And I talk in some of my videos about the mechanical differences between either heel strike, midfoot strike, or forefoot strike running. They're all very mechanically different. Whether one's better than the other, I'm agnostic on. I'm not a runner, but you can do either one of those, but you can't walk forefoot first and be very efficient at doing it. It's just going to be a lot slower, and it's going to take you a lot more energy to do it. And it's just, to my earlier point, it's just not going to fix the problem you're trying to solve.
So with the heel striking, let's see. So when you're walking on your forefoot, it seems like, just in my opinion, it seems like you're using your foot as a spring, and it seems like you're absorbing all the impacts like easier. But what would you say that the disadvantages to forefoot walking would be?
Yeah, so number one, if you're going to be forefoot walking, then you're going to be placing on the forefoot and then retrograding back to the heel. So you're actually moving less efficiently because you're actually not moving forward the whole time. Instead of rolling forward, you're actually moving your foot backwards as you're trying to move your body forwards. So that is much less efficient.
So Mark, would you say that Dr. Martin, he's saying that you land on like you're rocking backwards, but I think I saw one of your videos, you were saying that it's actually more of like you're landing on the outside edge of the foot, and then it kind of relaxes inward, and that when you hang your foot naturally off of a ledge, that's the position that it's naturally in. And so it seems like you're impacting the force in a natural way. Um, like, would you say that that is different than like landing on your tiptoes and then rocking backwards?
Yeah, that is not how you'd forefoot walk. What is happening is that you're landing on the forefoot, you're landing on the metatarsal pads, and through the suspension mechanism of your Achilles, you are then creating a spring. Whether you land fully or place full pressure upon the heel, which I don't do, or nor do I promote, that's up to the individual, but that is not in the process in how you would walk.
What I described is what you can see Mark here doing, which is placing on the forefoot and then the heel drops to the ground as the weight is transferred over that standing leg. This is different than a forward rocking action with continuous forward movement of the foot, which occurs during heel strike and is much more efficient. I want to close this excerpt from our debate with a point that I didn't get a chance to address during the debate regarding Mark's idea that we gain speed by leaning forward.
If you don't need to go as fast, you will land right here. If you want to go faster, you will land out here.
And we have a relatively extreme forward lean when we are trying to walk very fast. He demonstrates that here, and you can see the poor posture that would result if we really walked in this manner, where the spine is forward angled at about 30 degrees and is not lined up with the angle of the pelvis. This would be extremely bad for your back as well as your other joints.
This is really a fast walk. In fact, that is almost a running angle.
You can see in my demonstration, I pick up speed by rotation, not by trying to lean into gravity. And similar, when you see Jesse Owens running, you do not see him or Usain Bolt gaining speed by leaning forward. They have a very relatively vertical posture. Although with sprinting and running, there can be a slight forward lean because you don't have both legs on the ground at the same time. You can land with one leg on the ground and your spine lined up perfectly well with your pelvis, even with a slight forward lean when running. You cannot do that when walking since both feet have to be on the ground at the same time.